Okay, so far nothing too tricky. And another excellent 3 marks here. This is stuff you've been doing since third year. This is effectively rearrange the equation, but it's dressed up with terminology that's from higher. So we've got our domain here where x is a real number. Don't need to care about that. And h negative 1. So we've learned that that's the inverse function. And just to kind of again, what's the inverse function? Well, if I've got a function that's doing so x cubed plus 7, I'm not sure. Maybe it's doing, who knows, something like that. Who knows? Who knows or dares to dream? Well, the inverse function of that will be reflected along this line, this y equals x 45-degree line. So you tilt your head to the right, and you can start to draw it. And I'm not amazing at drawing these, but we're doing something like, like that. Okay, that's what your inverse is. And the point with this is if you were to put in, say we knew this coordinate here was 2, 5, probably should have written that in green, but anyway, over here, that coordinate is going to be 5, 2. Everything's reversed. Okay, if I put a 2 into this function, I get a 5 out. In this one, if I put a 5 into the function, I get 2 out. It's the opposite way around. Okay, so a bit of background on that, but you don't even need to know that for this. I'm just trying to explain what's going on, and that's why it's worth 3 marks, because you've learned about inverse functions. But to solve it is very easy. You just have to say, okay, well, h of the x is a fancy way of saying y, because that's my output. Yeah, y is the output. This is just saying I've got a function with respect to x. Okay, nice, good for you. Just means y equals. And then I'm going to rearrange, take away 7 from both sides. So BODMAS in reverse, yeah. So take away 7 from both sides, and then do your cube root, and make sure it's a cube root of everything, and that is equal to x. So that means that the inverse function is going to be equal to the cube root of x take away 7. So see what I've done there? I've now called x y, and I've called y x. Okay. So if I put a 1 into this function, 1 plus 7 is 8. What should happen is if I put an 8 into this function, I get a 1 out. 8 take away 7 is 1, cube root of 1 is 1, yeah. And that's what's going on here. Okay. So that is worth 3 marks. I'm going to get the marking scheme. My mouse is always all over the place. You get a mark for, there's a few different ways to do it, but you would get a mark for this, fantastic, a mark for the arrangement, and then yeah, your final answer. You also could have, they've said, yep, you could have written it if you wanted as x take away 7. Pardon me. Still got a little bit of this cold. To the third if you wanted, but you don't have to. So, an excellent question. Excellent. I mean, 3 marks for rearrange. I could give that to third years, and I'm pretty sure they would get that. It's just about understanding the notation, cut through the jargon. And all this means is we're rearranging. So when you see these inverse functions, you're rearranging it, and then you're flipping. The x becomes the y becomes the x. And if you want to try and contextualize it in your mind, that's what we're saying. The other question they love to do is to say, well, if you then put, okay, so say I put my inverse function, okay, say I put the inverse function into the function, what am I going to get? Well, you just come back to where you started. You end up with x. If you put your inverse into the main function, you're just undoing what you've done. Okay, so yeah, remember that. There's a wee mark for that as well sometimes. Anyway, I hope that was helpful.